Veer, you have a new special that's out on
Yes.
Netflix.
Yes.
It's your third.
Yes.
It's called Veer Das for India.
Yes.
And it dropped on Republic Day.
Yes.
I had a chance to watch it. I really enjoyed it.
Thank you.
I think it's funny and I think it's sharp. I think it's honest. And you don't pull any punches.
I do not know. To me, I saw the special as kind of a mix of little and big.
Right.
And you kind of had to do justice to both.
Right.
So if I'm going to talk about this big political issue, we're going to do Parle Ji and Chyawanprash as well. And hopefully you'll find a balance somewhere in between there. Because I started out saying, okay, I'm going to write this one idea of India. And I quickly failed at that. Because
that's how it started out.
That's how it started out. Because there's no one India. There's 1.3 billion Indias.
Right.
But we can all agree on Parle Ji. And we can all agree on Chyawanprash, and we can all agree on Old Monk. And maybe if I get us to agree about that, I can talk about the stuff we disagree about.
Right.
So yeah.
It's interesting because half that audience is filled with Indians,
Yes.
and the other half is foreigners,
Yes.
there's expats. You're talking about things that are intrinsically Indian
Very
things,
Indian,
from
yeah.
Chyawanprash and Old Monk to Tinkle and everything in between. But you're also sort of talking about, you're also making the Jungle Book metaphors about
Yes.
Modi and
Yeah.
Amit Shah.
Yeah.
You're talking about Kargil, you're talking
Yeah.
about Kashmir. What is the purpose? What is the larger purpose of comedy? Veer? I found, certainly in some areas, when you're
Yeah.
talking about 26/11
Yeah.
and the spirit of Mumbai post-tragedy,
Yeah.
I found that it's making me confront how I feel about these things and whether I'm ready to laugh about these things.
Yeah. I think if you go into writing it, Rajeev, with a purpose, you're screwed.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, it's got to be funny first.
Correct.
And so I genuinely did not go in trying to write a Narendra Mowgli joke. I swear
Right.
to God. I went in saying, I have to talk about Jungle Book on Doordarshan.
Right.
Because that's cult and that's amazing and we'll all get on board. But it's in my subconscious, no? It's somewhere in there. So I think as you do this for a while, you kind of let that out a little bit. That's really all experience buys you in stand-up, is accessing what's floating around inside you and letting that come out onto the page naturally. So yeah, I was writing about Mowgli and Narendra Modi came up and it became a Narendra Mowgli joke, right? Whether that has purpose or not, I don't know. I mean, that's for the audience to decide. The 26/11 story, that was a conscious writing.
Right.
There was a lady called Sabina Saikia, who we all knew as a journalist.
Correct.
And we all lost her. So I'd been waiting for 3 specials to thank her. So I wrote that. But again, I had to talk about 4 tragedies.
Yeah.
And suddenly she came into my mind and this felt like an opportunity to thank her. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
But I can't predict what you're going to, I really thought when this special came out, people would take away different things from this special.
Right. They probably will, right?
And suddenly people are like, "Arey, but Mother Teresa joke," or "Arey, but," and I expected that to be stuff that nobody talked about.
Right. The thing is, I would imagine that it's the kind of special that will make some people very angry.
Yes.
And a lot of people uncomfortable.
Yes.
And that's not a bad thing, is it?
No, we're an
Certainly
early,
the uncomfortable part.
Yeah, I mean, we're an early comedy crowd, so we're
Yeah.
not used to feeling that discomfort.
That's right.
The purpose of comedy is that we can fundamentally disagree about things and somehow find a way to laugh about it under the same roof.
Right.
But it's greater when we fundamentally disagree.
Right.
That's a good comedy room. Like, I like performing abroad sometimes because I have to perform for Trump supporters. Or I have
Correct.
to perform for,
Correct.
guys who support Brexit.
Right.
But we disagree and we find something. To find that common ground, I think, is great.
But then when you're actually performing, when you're doing it live, are you worried? Is it working? Is it not working? I mean, how do you know when it's just completely bombing?
I mean, the audience lets you know. They jump you in like in 3 seconds.
These guys really loved you. These guys were sort of eating out of your hand, really.
Yeah, but you weren't there at the trial shows, no? So what happened with this was I wrote it down and then I took over Kaku Club in Bandra and I did like 40 shows in 20 days.
Wow.
So the first 10 of those shows are people just going, what the hell is this? And I'm trying to remind them, it's only $200, so please bear with me.
Your outrage has to be proportional to that.
But then I'd have to, this is the only show where I'd have to shut it down, end the show, and then spend half an hour, 45 minutes talking to people, saying, does this movie mean anything to you? Like, something that I really struggled with was millennials. I tried to find a millennial movie.
Right.
Like mine is Dil Chahta Hai.
Correct. Yeah.
Right?
But that was ours. Yeah.
Right. But I spoke to all these millennials because $200 millennial show.
Correct.
Right. and they're like, we don't know, maybe, Ye Jawani Hai. Maybe that. But there's nothing as iconic to them as Dil Chahta Hai was to us.
Right.
So I don't have it in the show because I couldn't find it. The one thing I'm sad I didn't have was Bahubali.
Sure.
So fun trivia about this show, I actually wrote 5 per category. And I cut out 1 per category for duration. So it was, if I could tell you 5 things about India, 4 for you, 1 for me.
Right.
And now it's 3 for you, 1 for me. It just got too long.
Correct.
And I sat down and I watched Bahubali. And I tried to find a joke about Bahubali that didn't feel predictable.
Right.
I just couldn't do it. So that's a big regret. I wanted to put Bahubali in this thing.
Were there jokes from the ones that you retained? And I'm going to specifically pick the ones that really made me think how I felt about it. The Mandir Masjid jokes.
Yeah.
The 2611 Spirit of Mumbai. Rajiv Gandhi's assassination.
Yeah.
Also, punching the baby. I mean,
I'm sorry, man.
And you really went for that one. Were there... Did any of them come close to being cut because you were not sure how they'd go down?
No, I mean the audience would have let me know if they weren't on board. But I come from a very different place on all of them. So if we go one by one, let's start with punching babies because that's what everybody's talking about on Twitter, right? You need silly in a special.
Right.
Keep in mind this is not a 1-hour live show.
Yeah.
And with streaming giants coming in, you have to start thinking of stand-up comedy specials as pieces of cinema.
Sure.
Right? So there have to be dynamics in a stand-up comedy special. You have to make them uncomfortable. There has to be like oh, that's intelligent. And there has to be just silliness in it as well. So punching babies is pure silliness.
Right.
Where it's not. I don't punch babies.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes, we certainly hope so.
We can all agree on that. 2611 is just Dil. That's something that's close to my heart. But I wanted to see if I could find a different angle on it. I think we did.
Yeah. I think it's the whole spirit of Mumbai. The like we wake up and go to work anyway, right? And the lunch still lands up. Yeah, the dabba still comes.
The Rajiv Gandhi, this thing it just came from Bhakra Nangal Dam. And
which is my favorite joke on the show. I love the Bhakra Nangal Dam show because it's true.
Yeah, but that's an actual moment from my childhood. That happened when I was in Sana and they told us and we just didn't know. Because kids are ignorant. And then I forget what the 4th one you brought up was.
The Mandir Masjid jokes.
The Mandir Masjid jokes. I really, if you look at that joke and its structure, we have a little bit of hypocrisy around our religion.
Yeah.
And we do with that hypocrisy when it comes to economics.
Right.
So the real point of that joke is forget Hinduism and Islam, let's talk about property.
Right.
Because that's your real religion. You can pretend to be all of these things.
Correct.
This is about real estate at some level for you as well. And I feel like that's a true thing for a lot of religious upheaval in India.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's used to distract from the economics of India. You know what I mean?
But that's what it's about.
That's what it's about.
Right. Also it's very intelligent. I mean, I love the Jallianwala Bagh story, which is, of course, you go into thinking he's going to make a joke about this.
Yeah.
But I love the General Dyer and the old monk connection.
Yeah. So that was pure trivia going down a rabbit hole on the internet, and I'm like, oh my god, this is mind blowing. The first time I read it, it gave me goosebumps, and I'm like, so I'll be honest, I read that. And I wasn't planning to write a joke about old monk in this special.
Okay.
And when I read that, I put it in the beginning of the special so it would come back.
Or Pandit Nehru's speech, the Tryst with Destiny speech, which is fantastic.
Yeah.
That it's missed everybody for all these years.
Yeah. I mean, there's been chatter about that for a while. Like you can find it online where people are like midnight Indian Standard Time, the world is, not sleeping, etc. That's been around for like 20 years. I really like the conversation between those two guys. You know what I mean? Like, I'm always fascinated. See, I've said this before. Politicians aren't scary. The guys who love politicians, those guys are scary. It's the guy who's screaming "Ki Jai."
Correct.
That's the scariest guy in the world. Blank is fine. Blank Ki Jai, jo bolta hai na, that is the scariest guy in the world.
This was of course recorded before NRC and CAA became a thing.
Yeah.
Do you have a joke for that? Would you have liked to?
Well, there's a joke about student riots in the thing. Like, I just remember shooting this special and the Kashmir decision hadn't happened, and NRC had not happened, and the Ram Mandir decision hadn't happened, all of that stuff. And then I was just doing jokes, man. I'm just watching the news going, what is going on? Like, this stuff takes on a whole different meaning now. Yeah, there might have been a joke about it, but I would have tried to get to it from a fun place. I got to bring you in with Jungle Book if I'm going to take you. That's how this works.
Do you feel like the comedy community is one in this? In this country and in this landscape where where offense is so easily taken, and you address the fact that India doesn't have a sense of humor, or Indians don't have a sense of humor. Do you feel like the community or the industry is sort of united?
I think we're divided by opinion,
right?
But united by artistry. Dave Chappelle had a great bit in one of his acceptance speeches where he's like, no matter what your point of view is, there is a comedian that represents that point of view.
Right.
And we are public speakers at the end of the day. And I can disagree with this point of view, but respect the artistry. Like, he talked about how lots of comedians do very racist jokes, and he's sitting back going, he means that, that's not a joke, but he's still very funny in the way that he's doing it.
Correct.
So when comedians are around in a green room, we're not talking about what your opinion was. We're respecting how you sold that opinion.
Sure.
And we also recognize that half the time that's not even your opinion. You're just throwing stuff at a wall.
Right,
you're trying to provoke people. You're trying to make the room feel a certain way.
You're very political in your comedy, as is Kamra,
Yeah.
Kamal Kamra. What's his beef with you? What's
Okay, we made up, so that you should know that about the two of us. And he's a really sweet guy. He gave me a call, and we kind of put it in this thing. But I don't know. I think I'm a fan.
Sure.
You know what I mean? And he was kind of in a bad place then, and we talked it out. But I'm a huge fan of what he does. And what I always tell guys like Kamra is, my audience in India is 250 million people. That's what I work with. You have 1 billion people that you can reach, and you guys have the, like Zakir, Kamra, all these Hindi comics now have the edginess of world English comics. Earlier they didn't. Earlier Hindi comedy was like, Bachchan Sahab train pe hai, pakode kha rahe, that kind of this thing, etc. Now we've got edge. You can reach the largest audience in the world. So just don't forget that opportunity. So I think guys like him have that opportunity. I don't.
You're also acting. I mean,
Yes.
it's interesting because the same weekend that the special dropped was the weekend that you're
fresh off the boat.
Fresh off the boat.
So one for India, one for America, kind of on the same day. So yeah.
How much? I feel like this show as well, because it's on Netflix. This special, because it's on Netflix. It's very conscious of the fact, and you're conscious of the fact that this is going out to 190 countries. So a lot of it is explaining Indian concepts to. Do you feel like that's what even in the on the Fresh Off the Boat episode? Do you feel like that it's an extension of that you're kind of commodifying the Indian experience?
I think, look, I firmly maintain our culture isn't just for us.
Right.
And we don't exist alone in the world. And maybe the way to update their version of what they think India is just really put that culture out there.
Yeah.
So I don't mind explaining it. And I think that 90% of Indians will wait 6 seconds longer while I talk to the white people and say, okay, Chyawanprash is like peanut butter, etc., etc.
Correct, yeah.
If that gets too
peanut
long,
butter for when you hate your children.
When you hate your children, right?
Funny.
But if that goes too long, then you might want to pick them up with pace, etc. And you kind of have to stick it to the Western people as well a little bit for Indians to be on board. But
through the show also, what I mean is that is that the role of the brown man in in any international kind of project or anything that goes out to?
Well, I think there's a mold here, and then there's hypocrisy attached to it as well.
Right.
All right. Look, at the end of the day, it is an American country. It is a British country. There is so much that they know about Indian people, and this stuff costs a lot of money.
Sure.
So they're going to go with something that they recognize. Now, can you go with something that they recognize and push the envelope steadily and steadily and steadily and steadily? Dave Patel is the brown guy in every single Hollywood movie. But at some level, Dave Patel is still doing Hotel Mumbai and Lion and a lot of these India stories, so that he can do an Oliver Twist, so that he can do a modern love, etc., etc.
Correct.
You got to play ball. I think that's that. And also hypocrisy is, man, why should I play taxi driver? Why should I play motel owner? we've given one role to a white guy in 80 years of Indian cinema. The only role a white guy is Do Guna Lagan,
Right.
kill Indian dogs. You know, that's the only role a white guy's ever played.
You made the Tom Walter joke as well.
Yeah. So where do we get off saying, give me now layered this thing? I don't know. You gotta, like, you know, on Fresh Off the Boat, I loved that they got into this family. You know, I've read the pilot that they will hopefully shoot, and it's much more detailed.
This is the pilot that you and Preity will do together.
Yeah, then this backdoor episode, you know, that we've done. It's layered and it's emotional and it's nuanced and it's largely about family dynamics that would work no matter what culture you were.
Right.
And I kind of like that.
Do you believe that comedy can and will change the world?
I believe that
in the way that writers believe that words can and will change the world. I mean, the greatest writers have always believed that literature will change how we look at the world, and to some degree, perhaps it has. Does comedy have that power?
I'll say it in two ways. I think anything that changes the world is pure. And so it's either pure passion, pure love, or pure hatred changes the world. But I don't think that's planned. A Swedish girl who's 13 years old making a speech where she cries about climate change changes the world.
Yeah.
But she doesn't go into that planning to change the world. It's pure.
Right.
It's pure emotion, right? So I think when comedy hits that, it has the ability to. But on the off chance it doesn't change the world, it endures. I believe that comedy endures more than anything. I can watch Kishore Kumar today. I can watch Johnny Lever today. I can watch George Carlin today. The reason, you know, sometimes when people were talking to me about this special, they're like, why are you focusing so much on these little things?
Yeah.
Why don't you just go? And to me, it's because Manmohan Singh came and went, and Narendra Modi will come and go, and Amit Shah will come and go, and these people will come and go. Parle Ji stays.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Chavan Prash stays.
Right.
Amar Akbar Anthony stays. You know, that will outlive all of these people and their political agendas, whether you like it or not. That's India, man. So if you do comedy about that, that endures. You know, with this special, I was tempted to go very direct politically.
Right.
And I was like, man, if I get one shot, you know, to put my country's culture out there on Netflix, I want my show to be on Netflix when these politicians are gone.
Right.
I want it to still be watchable then. So I'm going to make it about Jungle Book and I'm going to make it about Parle Ji. You know what I mean? Because these guys will go.
Thank you so much. Can't wait to see what you do next.
Thank you.
Congratulations on all the many hats that you wear.
Thank you.
Looking forward to lots more. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.